The city lights stretched endlessly beneath the towering windows of Jungkook's penthouse office, casting long, sharp shadows across the marble floor. The faint hum of traffic below was almost peaceful, but inside, the air was heavy with authority and tension. Wine leaned silently against the doorway, invisible in the dim light. Watching, Jungkook stood at the center of the room, flanked by two of his top lieutenants. Every movement he made was precise, calculated, almost predatory. I don't care what the others think. If we are going to expand, we do it my way, no exceptions. Sir, the risk is, Jungkook cut him off with a single sharp look. The only risk is failure, and failure isn't in our vocabulary. Wine's just tightened. The way he commanded the room, the raw intensity in his voice, it was intoxicating, terrifying. She pressed her hand against her stomach, feeling the emptiness gnawing at her. She had skipped lunch, skipped dinner, all in the hope that she might somehow look better. Enough, but compared to the cold, untouchable perfection of Jungkook, she felt small, invisible. And what about the shipment from Seoul? The timing handled, I told you I handled it. His voice was ice, but there was a subtle softness in his fingers as he adjusted a stack of papers. Wine noticed it immediately, a fleeting trace of care that only she might see. A coat left draped over a chair, a fresh cup of coffee on her desk earlier that day. Silent gestures unspoken but enough to stir her heart in confusion. Wine swallowed hard, her throat felt dry. She wanted to speak, to say something, anything, but the words froze on her tongue. Instead, she whispered to herself, barely audible, "He doesn't even see me, does he?" Chung's gaze flickered in her direction, not out of affection, not out of concern, but curiosity. His dark eyes, sharp and unreadable, held her in place. She felt exposed, vulnerable, as if he could see every doubt, every insecurity she tried to hide. "Stay here, don't move." I wasn't. I said stay. His tone was final, commanding. There was no room for argument. Wine pressed herself against the wall, heart hammering, feeling simultaneously terrified and drawn to him. There was a dangerous magnetism in the way he dominated every inch of the room, a darkness that promised both protection and peril. Minutes passed, the meeting ended, associates filed out, leaving only the two of them. Jungkook's movements were smooth, effortless, almost predatory. He didn't speak, didn't ask her to come closer. He simply approached her desk and placed a folded coat neatly across the back of her chair. No words, no explanations, just a coat. White's fingers trembled as she reached out, touching the soft fabric. A shiver ran down her spine. He had noticed in his cold, meticulous way that she had been uncomfortable. That small act, so simple, so silent, was enough to make her feel seen yet utterly powerless. Why do I care so much? Jungkook's voice cut through the silence, low, smooth, dangerous. Control yourself, or it will cost you. The words were not a threat, they were a warning, and yet Wine's heart betrayed her. Racing at the sound, she wanted to argue, to say that she wasn't weak, but she couldn't, not in front of him, not ever. He turned and left the office, the faint click of his heels echoing in her ears. Wine stayed behind, the city lights reflecting in her eyes, the emptiness in her stomach gnawing it deeper. She was alone, but watched, desired, perhaps, but never safe. And for the first time that night, she realized in this world, under his cold gaze, she would have to fight not just for him but for herself. The bedroom glittered under crystal chandeliers, a sea of wealthy guests laughing, sipping champagne, and discussing business deals that could decide fortunes. Yet one felt like she was floating outside reality, her stomach gnawed empty from hours of self imposed hunger. Her heels dug into her feet, tired and comfortable, but she refused to complain. She had to look perfect, better than his ex, better than any memory he might still cling to. Jungkook stood near the center talking to an influential investor. His tailored suit was immaculate, his presence magnetic, untouchable. Guests subconsciously parted around him, respecting fear and power in equal measure. Wine took a deep breath and approached, careful to keep her distance. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the hem of her dress. Are you busy? Her voice was quite hesitant, as if she feared the very air around him. Jungkook's dark eyes flicked toward her, sharp as blades. He didn't smile, he didn't soften. Do I look busy enough for you to interrupt? His tone was cold but not cruel. There was a precision to its mere deliberate. Wine swallowed hard. She had wanted reassurance, a small smile, maybe even a touch. Instead, she felt the familiar cold distance, the wall he always maintained. She tried again. I just thought. Chungo cut her off with a single raised eyebrow, his gaze scanning her like he could see straight through every insecurity. You thought what exactly? That maybe you would notice me? Her words barely rose above a whisper, almost lost in the clinking glasses and chatter around them. He paused just long enough to make her heart hammer, her eyes narrowed, scanning her from head to toe, calculating. Then, just as abruptly, he turned back to his conversation with the investor, dismissing her entirely. Once just tightened, she clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay composed. Why did it hurt so much? She had starved herself, endured pain just to look enough. As the evening progressed, she noticed something that made her stomach twist. A framed photograph, subtle yet unmistakable, sitting on a side table near Jungkook's seat, his ex-girlfriend. Her laugh frozen in the time behind the glass. He glanced at it, and for a fleeting moment, his lips twitched. Nostalgia, regret, or something darker. You still think about her? The words slipped out before she could stop them, sharp with accusation and pain. Jungkook's eyes snapped to hers, dark and unreadable. His jaw tightened. Why would that matter to you? His voice was low, cold, but carrying an edge that made her stomach clench. Because I'm here, because I. She stopped. She wanted to scream, to demand affection, to plead, but instead she felt lightheaded, a dizzy haze overtaking her, her stomach hollow from her fasting, revolted, her knees buckled. The room blurred, guests' laughter and conversation stretched into a distant echo. She felt herself falling, the world tilting around her, and then strong and yielding arms caught her. She gasped, eyes wide, pressed against the broad chest of Jungkook. You have lost your mind? Are you trying to humiliate yourself in front of everyone? His tone was sharp, commanding, yet beneath the cold words was a undercurrent of possessive concern. I didn't mean to. Silence. His hand steadied her, fingers firm against her spine as he maneuvered through the stunned crowd, holding her close enough to remind everyone she belonged to him. The room froze, whispers sparking, but no one dared interrupt the scene. One's head rested against his chest, heart pounding, shame and relief colliding. For the first time, she realized something terrifying. Under his cold exterior, he noticed her, felt her in a way no one else could. Jungkook's eyes, dark and calculating, scanned her pale face. You will eat, he said simply, a command that proved no argument. No more games, not for anyone, not for me, not for her memory. You will survive tonight. White nodded weakly, clinging to him, understanding finally that in his world care was not soft, it was cool, precise, protective. dangerous, and she was utterly, irrevocably caught in it. The glittering party blurred around wine, guests moved like shadows. She had pushed herself too far, skipped meals, ignored her fatigue, obsessed with being perfect, being enough, being someone Chungo couldn't compare to his ex. She adjusted the delicate necklace at her neck, a simple chain, yet its pendant reminded her painfully of the one Jungkook's ex used to wear. A bitter twist of jealousy and shame tightened her chest. Jungkook, standing across the room, noticed the subtle tremor in her hands, his eyes dark and calculating, sharp. He stepped closer, his tailored suit impeccable, every movement radiating dangerous control. You have been staring at that for hours. Are you planning to wear her memory around your neck? Miles' cheeks flamed. She tried to hide the pendant, fingers clutching it tighter. I just like it. Her voice was fragile, wavering between defiance and shame. Like it? His tone was slow, almost growling, sending a shiver down her spine. Or like her. Her stomach twisted. She opened her mouth to speak, but words caught in her throat. The room tilted, her vision blurred. She tried to steady herself, gripping the nearest chair, but the effort was futile. I'm fine, she whispered, voice cracking, but the word around her disappeared. Her knees buckled, and then she fell. Strong, unyielding arms caught her mid-fall, lifting her effortlessly against his chest. Her face pressed into the warmth of his suit. Heart hammering, fear and relief colliding, Jungkook's mind raced. Why do you push yourself like this? His fingers tightened slightly on her waist, possessive, fragile, yet reckless, and it makes me furious and something else. He didn't look around at the shocked guests. He didn't care about their whispers or judgmental glances. His word had narrowed to her, pale and trembling in his arms. You're insane. His voice was sharp, but his hands didn't move. Do you have any idea what you just did to me? I wanted to be enough. Her voice was barely audible, trembling against him. He pressed a finger under her chin, tilting her face up so he could see her eyes, dark and vulnerable. Enough, you think this torture of yourself will make me want you more? His voice was low, dangerous, yet threaded with a possessive hunger that made her shiver. He moved her through the crowd with effortless grace, ignoring all eyes, murmuring sharply, stay still, I'm not letting anyone touch you, not tonight, not ever. Reaching a private corridor behind the ballroom, he sat her down gently on a black leather chaise. He knelt to remove her heels, tossing them aside with a sharp motion. His eyes didn't soften, not truly, but the way his fingers lingered for a heartbeat longer against her ankle betrayed a flicker of care. Why do you care? She whispered, exhausted, barely able to hold herself upright. Jungkook's jaw tightened, his dark eyes glimmered with a mixture of anger, lustful possessiveness, and something she didn't expect concern. I don't care in your way, I care in mine. His hand brushed a stray lock of hair from her face. You think being fragile makes you weak? No, you are mine, and I'll make sure everyone knows it, even if I have to burn the world down around us. Wine's breath hitched. The words were sleep, dangerous, possessive, but there was truth in them. Her chest ached, heart pounding against his solid frame. Jungkook's gaze flicked to the necklace again. And stop comparing yourself to her. You don't need to. You're enough because you're here. Because you're mine. Remember that. For a moment, the words shrank to just the two of them, the cues of the party outside irrelevant, the whispers fading. And in that tension filled silence, one realized in his cold, dark, and dangerous way he loved her. But love in Jungkook's word was possession, protection, and power all and went, and she was utterly caught. The music and chatter of the party faded behind the thick, heavy door Jungkook had closed. Outside, the glittering lights of the ballroom masked whispers and judgmental glances. But in this private corridor, the world had narrowed to just the two of them. Jungkook guided Wine to a sleek black luxury car parked discreetly in a shadowed garage. Every moment was precise, almost predatory, yet his hands were careful as they adjusted her dress and helped her settle into the seat. You didn't have to do all this. Her voice was soft, almost incredulous, but it trembled with exhaustion. Didn't have to. His darkest pirate's heart sharp and commanding. Do you think I let anyone see you like that? Do you think I let anyone touch you, look at you without my permission? Mine swallowed heart hammering. She had always known he was cold, untouchable, feared by the world, but seeing that side, the possessive, dangerous, protective side, was intoxicating. I didn't mean to worry you. Jungkook's hand brushed a strand of hair from her face. The gesture was small, almost casual, but the intensity in his gaze made her shiver. You never mean to worry me, you do, and every time it makes me want to fix it my way, my rules. The car glided through dark streets, city lights flashing across his sharp features. Jungkook's silence filled the space, heavy with unspoken thoughts. His mind churned anger at her insecurity, frustration at her self-imposed suffering, and an edge of lustful possessiveness that made his jaw clenched. She's so fragile, so reckless, yet I can't look away. Every part of her is mine, whether she knows it or not, and I'll make sure she remembers that every breath, every heartbeat. Finally, the car arrived at a private penthouse far removed from the party's glittering hues. Jungkook carried one effortlessly into the suite, laying her gently on a case near the panoramic windows. The city sprawled beneath them, beautiful, dangerous like their word. Why do you care so much? Her voice was barely audible but filled with raw curiosity and vulnerability. Jungkook's expression softened for the briefest moment, almost imperceptible. Then his dark gaze returned, intense and dangerous. I don't care the way you want me to. I care the way I know matters, precision, careful protection, and don't ever forget it. He leaned closer, brushing his lips near her temple, not quite a kiss, but close enough to make her pulse race. Wine, and if anyone ever your own insecurities try to take you from me, I'll burn the word to stop it. Wine's eyes widened, a mixture of fear, awe, and desire swelling in her chest. For the first time, she realized the depths of his dangerous love. It wasn't tender or soft, it was dark, possessive, consuming, and in this world of shadows and whispers, she had no choice but to surrender, if only for a moment, to the man who ruled her heart as ruthlessly as he ruled his empire. Jungkook stepped back, finally allowing her a breath of space, yet never fully released her. The city lights reflected in his dark eyes, and she knew tonight had changed everything. He had claimed not just her body, but her mind, her fear, her every being. Outside, the mafia world carried on, glittering and dangerous. But inside the quiet aftermath, the air was changed with tension, loss, and the promise of something darker, more intimate, and utterly inescapable. The black luxury car glided into the private garage beneath Jungkook's penthouse. One's head rested against the leather seat, still dizzy and pale from fainting, her heart hammering in embarrassment and lingering fear. Jungkook didn't even give her a chance to protest. As soon as the elevator doors closed, he parked into his phone. Call Dr. Han now. Wine tried weakly to push against his arm, feeble as it was. No, I'm fine. I don't need a doctor. He ignored her completely, his dark eyes fixed ahead as he pressed the phone again. Do you want me to die? He didn't wait for an answer. Call him. Minutes later, Dr. Han arrived, an older man with calm eyes and a professional air. He stepped inside, checking her pulse and asking a few careful questions. Has she been eating properly, skipping meals? One Stephen trying to hide her shame. Dr. Han's eyes scanned her carefully, then turned to Jungkook. She's weak, pale, she's been restricting food. If this continues, she could collapse again. You need to make sure she eats. Jungkook's gaze flicked to wine, sharp, dangerous, and possessive. She couldn't meet his eyes, shame burning through her. Dr. Han nodded, finishing his check. That's all for now. Keep an eye on her. Make sure she eats. He left, leaving a heavy silence in the penthouse suite. Wine shifted uncomfortably, still embarrassed, expecting Jungkook to explode. Instead, he stood quietly, eyes dark, unreadable. Explain. His tone was cold, commanding. Wine hesitated, then whispered, I was insecure. Jungkook raised an eyebrow, impatience and curiosity flashing in his gaze. About my figure and about her, your ex. I thought you still loved her. Silence stretched, Jungkook's lips pressed into a hard line, his jaw tightening, then slowly he stepped closer, closing the distance between them. You believe that? He bent slightly, tilting her chin up with a single finger, forcing her to look at him, his dark eyes bore into hers. After all this, after everything, you still thought I loved her. She could barely speak, trembling. Jungkook's hand lingered against her cheek. His voice softened just enough to and intimate. Now do you believe me? That I only love you? Mine's eyes widened in shock, her breath catching. She didn't know what to say, caught between disbelief and longing. He leaned closer, close enough to her to feel his warmth, his voice low and dark. I'm cold, ruthless, untouchable. That's who I am. But you are mine, only mine. Do you understand? Wine nodded, her lips barely moving. Her heart was hammering, yet a sense of security, wild and dangerous, flowed through her. I don't say it like others would. I don't need to. I show it in ways you feel, not in words. I protect you, I claim you, I want on you, and you will remember that every time you doubt yourself. One's hands trembled as you reached for his, intervening his fingers with her possessive ones. I understand. I trust you. He smiled slightly, almost darkly amused, but his eyes softened just a fraction. Good. Now rest, eat later, and never ever doubt me again. As she leaned into him, she realized his love was dangerous, cold, and intoxicating, but it was unmistakably hers. In the shadows of fear and desire, she found herself and him.